We are at Johnson St. Paul Cemetery in Hampton County, South Carolina. We're here to pay our respects at the grave of Gloria Satterfield.
She was the housekeeper for the Murdaughs.
911, where's your emergency? 4147 Bozell Road.
Okay, what's going on out there?
I'm sorry?
What's going on out there?
My housekeeper has fallen and her head is bleeding. I cannot get her up.
Gloria Satterfield spent about 25 years as the housekeeper and nanny for the wealthy and powerful Murdaugh family in Hampton County, South Carolina. She helped raise the two Murdaugh boys, Richard Alexander Jr., who likes to be called Buster, and Paul. She often took them to school and cooked meals for them. On Groundhog Day of 2018, which was February 2nd, Satterfield was rushed to the hospital from the Murdaugh home where she was working that day. The 911 call was made by Alex Murdaugh's wife, Maggie.
Okay, you said she's fallen. She's bleeding from the head?
Yes.
Okay. How old is she?
I'm not sure, like 58 maybe.
Do you know if she fell from standing or not?
No. No.
Where'd she fall from?
She's still going up the steps, up the brick steps.
Okay, so she outside or inside?
Outside.
Okay. How many steps is there?
8.
Okay, is she on the ground or is she up near the top?
She's on the ground. She's on the ground. She's on the ground.
Is she conscious?
No, not really.
Is she awake at all?
Yes.
Okay. Is she just not, like, responding appropriately, but she is awake?
Man, she's not responding.
Okay, I've already got them on the way. Me asking questions does not slow them down again. Where exactly is she bleeding from on her head?
I'm not sure. At the top of her head.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, gosh.
What happened?
She just fell back down. Can I get off this phone so I can go down there?
Can I have your name and phone number? Or are you able to bring the phone down by her?
What?
Are you on a cell phone where you can walk down there and talk?
Cell phone. No.
Okay, can you bring it with you so we can ask her some questions about what kind of pain she's having?
At this point, Maggie handed the phone to her son, Paul.
Hello?
Yeah, can you ask the patient what kind of pain she's having?
Man, she can't talk.
Okay, do you know...
She's cracked her head and there's blood on the concrete and she bleeds out of her left ear.
Okay, she's bleeding out of her ear?
And out of her head. She's cracked her skull.
Okay. Alright, the other lady said that she had tried to stand up and fell down again?
No, I was holding her up. And
okay.
She told me to turn her loose and she was trying to use her arm, but then she fell back over.
Okay, do you guys know who she is?
Yeah, she works for us.
Okay, do you know if she's ever had a stroke or anything before?
Man, can you stop asking her this question?
I already have them on the way. Me asking questions does not slow them down in any way. These are relevant questions that I have to ask for the ambulance. One of my questions is, has she ever had a stroke?
I don't believe she's ever had a stroke, not that I know
Okay. Okay, is she able to talk to you guys at all, or is she unconscious now?
She's not unconscious, she's just mumbling.
Okay.
I believe she's maybe hit her head and maybe has a concussion or something.
Okay.
Maybe.
Do you know what her name is?
Gloria Satterfield.
You said Sanderfield?
Ma'am?
You said Sanderfield?
Satterfield.
Satterfield. Okay, what's the house look like out there?
It's offset off the road.
Okay.
It's a big house, got a long driveway.
With a long driveway?
Yeah,
is there a gate or anything down there that they're going to need to come through?
There's 2 big brick columns that have to come through.
Okay, but there's no, like, gate code or anything that they need?
No, ma'am. And tell them that they can look for a fellow on a 656 Ranger.
Okay.
Waiting on them in the road is green.
All right. If something changes with her, if she loses consciousness or anything like that, I need one of you guys to call me back right away, okay?
Okay, well, how long is it going to take?
That I don't know. I've had them on the way since Maggie first called me. They were toned right away.
Once paramedics arrived, Satterfield was airlifted to a hospital. We don't know for sure how she was injured. We don't know whether it was an accident or if someone purposely hurt her. We do know when she got to the hospital she was in terrible shape. She had some sort of head injury. Her family said she looked at them like she had no clue who they were. She was in the ICU for about 3 weeks. During that time she had a stroke, then went into cardiac arrest before passing away. After she was injured, Satterfield's boss, Alex Murdaugh, told her family she had been the victim of a slip and fall on the front stairs of his home, apparently tripping over his large hunting dogs. Gloria wasn't able to speak again, but her family said Alex was like family to her, so they didn't question him. They simply believed him. The death was not reported to the coroner, so no autopsy was performed. The official cause of death was that she died of natural causes, which is not consistent with a slip and fall. One of Alex Murdaugh's attorneys, Dick Harpootlian, says it was an accidental slip and fall.
What do you say about the sled agent? You guys have said your client's not involved in Stephen Smith's death or Gloria Satterfield's, other than she tripped over the dogs.
There's no evidence that he was involved in any untoward act towards Gloria Satterfield in terms of her falling down the stairs or Stephen Smith. There's no evidence whatsoever. And I mean, I just think SLED is reacting to sort of the public pressure to open and look at things. And you know, obviously, Gloria Satterfield died as a result of that fall. But there's no evidence that anybody pushed her or anybody in any way caused her death.
According to Satterfield's lawyers, during the 3 weeks Gloria was in the hospital, neither one of the 2 Murdaugh kids who Gloria helped raise or Alex ever stopped by the hospital. Mrs. Murdaugh did visit one time. The Murdaughs did not help with funeral costs. However, at the funeral a couple of days after Gloria's death, Alex Murdaugh did speak to her 2 sons, Brian Little B. Harriet and Michael Anthony Tony Satterfield, telling them he took full responsibility for the accident. He also told them to hire a lawyer to sue his insurance company in a wrongful death lawsuit so they could get some money. He even told them who to hire, an attorney by the name of Corey Fleming. What the boys did not know at the time was Fleming was Murdaugh's former college roommate, best friend, and the godfather of Alex's son, Paul. Satterfield's lawyers point out it's very strange for someone to suggest to someone else to sue them. 3 years went by without the family receiving any money from the lawsuit. Then, on June 7th of 2021,
What's your emergency?
This is Alex Murdaugh. At 4147 Moselle Road. I need the police to the ambulance immediately. My wife and child got badly.
Alex's wife Maggie and son Paul were murdered at the same property in Hampton County where Gloria Satterfield fell down the steps. Shortly after the murders, one of the members of Satterfield's family was reading a newspaper article about the case. The article said Satterfield's boys had received a settlement of $500,000. Part of the lawsuit really sticks out, where Alex Murdaugh admitted he was at fault over Satterfield's death and told his insurer that there was no defense to the claim and that the claim must be paid. Problem is, Little B and Tony hadn't received a penny of it. So after reading the article, the Satterfield family hired different lawyers, this time going with Eric Bland and Ronnie Richter. Immediately, Bland and Richter sent a letter to Corey Fleming asking where the money was. They didn't get a response from him, so they sued him, Alex Murdaugh, and a local bank. At that point, they heard back from Fleming. He told them there was a settlement and that he'd explain it all to them. From that point on, Bland and Richter started their own investigation. They kept hearing from people telling them the settlement wasn't for $500,000, it was actually much higher, maybe $1 million or more. Eventually, they got a subpoena for Fleming's bank account where they were able to see how much all the checks were for. They found out the total number for the settlement was actually $4.3 million. Eventually, a settlement was reached with Fleming, and just 10 days after the settlement, Fleming's license to practice law was suspended. Fleming's name was also included, although not listed as a defendant, in another lawsuit. This one was brought on by Connor Cook. Cook was hurt in a boating accident while riding in a boat driven by Alex's son, Paul Murdaugh. In 2019, allegedly Paul was drunk when the crash happened, which resulted in 19-year-old Mallory Beach's death. The lawsuit states Alex Murdaugh had a talk with Cook and his family, and during that conversation, he told them to hire none other than Corey Fleming to be their attorney in the police investigation, trying to determine who was driving the boat when it crashed. He also failed to mention to them his close personal ties with Fleming. The lawsuit then claims Alex Murdaugh was going around different rooms at the hospital the night of the crash and trying to have people lie and say Cook was the one driving the boat when it crashed. After the murder of Maggie and Paul, SLED, which stands for South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, opened a criminal investigation into Gloria Satterfield's death. Alex was arrested on October 14th in connection with the missing insurance money. State prosecutors say there's evidence Alex took some or most of that money.
He had been carrying a $100,000 credit card balance for months. That gets paid off. He writes 300 and some odd grand to his father. He writes a check for 610 grand to himself. He writes a check for 125 grand to himself. Not a dime goes to this family.
This is a crime of a lawyer stealing money. A man who stole money from the very family of the housekeeper that helped raise his kids. This is a crime that we've never seen before, and I think Your Honor would send a clarion bell depending on the type of conditions that you put on his bond.
One man you said that you possess that Mr. Murdaugh possessed clear and present danger to society, danger to himself. On one hand, and on the other hand, you said he should have a bond with conditions.
Yeah, I want him not to have a bond. I would love it if this man was locked up and he couldn't harm anybody else. But there is a presumption that somebody is going to get bond. And if you're going to put bond, put those serious conditions on him that will restrain him. Our position is he does not deserve bond. He forfeited that right. He stole. He's a liar and a cheat.
Gloria's sister Ginger says, although the family has forgiven Alex, she still wonders if he was more worried about money than the fact her sister had just died. She said, did he not have that going through his mind the day that they buried Gloria? And thinking, oh, how much money am I going to get? How can I get this?
According to Gloria's obituary, she was a member of World Harvest Church in Hampton. She liked tennis, loved kids, and her favorite color was purple. Most of all, she will be remembered for her laughter and her outgoing personality. The surviving section of her obituary lists her family, then says those she loved as her family, Alex and Maggie Murdaugh, and their family, Randolph and Libby Murdaugh. She loved and gave so many years of her life to helping out Alex Murdaugh. One thing about this case we know for certain is he did not return the favor after her death.